She gave me a pen.
Dude, where'd she dump you, man?
Her car.
Your car? Ditched in the valley.
Did we touch the fire above? It will carry us forever. Did we do it all?
I swear, all these trailers give everything away.
That was literally the entire movie in order in 2 minutes.
Oh god, these trailers. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Movie Matters. I'm Kevin.
I'm Jake.
And today we're talking about Say Anything from 1989, directed by Cameron Crowe, John Cusack, Ione, Skye. I love this movie. I've seen it a handful of times. Jake, what'd you think?
So yeah, this is my first time seeing it. I enjoyed it a lot. Out of the 4 that we've watched this month, this is my second favorite. I think When Harry Met Sally is my favorite of these 4 that we watched. Yeah, I was really taken by surprise at a lot of the parts in this movie, which we'll get into, I'm sure. But yeah, it was not. I mean, it was like kind of what I was expecting, but also like not at all was that what I was expecting. So yeah, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. So
Yeah, it's really good. I thoroughly enjoy it. I'm a big fan of coming of age, teen movies, high school movies, college movies, but like the question of growing up is huge in this movie. And I love movies like that because, you know, no one knows what the heck they want to do in life for the most part. And this movie questions that, especially with Lloyd Dobler, John Cusack's character of, you know, what are you going to do after high school? You know, are you going to go to college? Are you going to get a job? What are you going to do? And that, like, existential crisis is huge in this movie. And I love that theme in these types of movies. And it's really, really, this movie just feels real.
yeah, I think I was a little worried having 16 Candles immediately followed by this, because going into both of them blind, I thought that they were almost the same exact movie, but that's not really the case at all. I think in a lot of ways they're like polar opposites.
Agreed.
16 Candles is very much focused on the themes of being in high school and dealing with high school, where this movie is about looking to the future after high school while being in high school, which are very different kind of things to have to deal with at like 18 or 16 or whatever. Yeah, like this movie reminds me a lot of like particularly the end of Ferris Bueller, where everyone's just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And like, you know, those kinds of themes, I think in the late 80s are like very common. And like, cause like all the people that started watching those movies in like 1984 or 1983 are now basically graduating high school at the end of the 80s or whatever, and they're all dealing with those same kind of problems. So I think it's kind of cool to get to see those 2 different perspectives back to back.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I kind of mentioned it in 16 Candles. I was like, this will be a good contrast to 16 Candles. I mean, we talked about it. We didn't care too much for 16 Candles, but like this movie is just, oh, it's so good. I don't know. I've seen it a handful of times and I love it every time. Yeah,
I mean, you made the point that this movie is very real. and I talked in the 16 Candles episode about how that movie's kind of a fantasy in a lot of ways. And I think that's also the biggest contrast between them. And I think also why I enjoyed Say Anything a bit more is because it is very, very realistic in the way that like everyone's portrayed. Like there's not a whole bunch of like super witty dialogue that's like not natural, and like there's not a whole lot of like overcompensating in like the scenarios that people are in, or like the acting, or like it's all very like it's almost like very run of the mill, but it's like compelling.
Oh yeah. Well, I love there's, you know, obviously it's a romantic story. It's a romantic comedy. It's about, you know, John Cusack, who's Lloyd Dobler, and Ione Skye, who's Diane Court. But it's also like it's three main characters in this movie. Like the dad is such a central figure in that, and I feel like that's been so prominent in the last three movies we've done, is the father figure, and this movie obviously is huge with the father figure, and I like that he isn't just a secondary character. He's a main character, and he's got problems too, and it affects the whole story. And it feels natural. It feels real. It's like everybody has issues. You know what I mean? And nobody's perfect, and it adds to the drama and the storyline, and it's told really well, and it's impressive because it's the directorial debut of Cameron Crowe, and he wrote this movie too. So, like 16 Candles, that was Hughes's directorial debut. It's interesting to see the two different styles of debuts from these directors. Yeah,
and I think it's important to touch on the like father-daughter relationships in these movies. Obviously, When Harry Met Sally doesn't apply because like they were adults like the whole time. But in I almost said Roadhouse, but not Roadhouse. Dirty Dancing. You know, the relationship between Jennifer Grey's character and her father in the movie is almost like neutral. Like she's kind of like almost ignored like by the family in like a lot of ways. I feel like maybe it's like borderline like adversarial, but it's not like they hate each other or anything like that. And then in 16 Candles, the movie starts out very much where her and her dad are kind of indifferent, and then the bond slowly grows throughout the movie until we get, you know, those scenes that we talked about, where, you know, like they have the heart to heart, and then the end where he kind of like gives his like nod of approval of like go enjoy yourself and like stuff, you know, which is cool. In Say Anything, I was expecting, based on the opening scenes, nothing to really change, and it's actually about the like implosion of their relationship, which was very surprising to me. I was not expecting that at all, especially because the dad is Marty Crane from Frasier, and is not like kind of scummy person that he is in this movie, like once you find out what he's doing. So that was a little jarring for me too.
He's so good in this movie, John Mahoney.
Yeah, he's very good. And like it's very deceiving. The beginning, like the early parts of the movie where he's interacting with Diane versus the end where you find out, you know, what he's been doing. It's like very, very, although he doesn't become like mean or like I don't know, it's hard to explain because like his personality doesn't really change. It's just the information you know about him. And then it kind of like casts him in this like very sinister kind of light. Which is also interesting and really well handled, I think, in the writing.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy because it's like the dynamic changes, which you've kind of mentioned, and it's, it's her and her dad that are inseparable, and her mom's out of the picture, and I like that little scene where she goes to dinner with her or lunch with her mom, and she meets her mom's boyfriend or whatever, and it's just like kind of the throwaway, like, oh, okay, like this, my mom isn't as loving as my dad, and it paints the dad in a better picture, and he's just like so supportive of her, and yeah, the dynamic's great, but then it changes over time where he starts to get investigated for what, like fraud, like stealing money from his elderly people at his.
It's basically tax fraud, I think.
Yeah,
because like he's like skimming money from the residents of his like nursing home and not claiming it as income. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and then obviously she starts not spending as much time with him and starts spending time with Lloyd, and it's interesting to see that dynamic, and then it changes again, and she's like, look, I need to spend time with my dad, and she breaks up with him, and then it goes back the other way. It's interesting. I absolutely love John Cusack's acting in this movie. He's so like vulnerable and shy and awkward, and his facial expressions, like he's so good. He, like, as funny as this sounds, like Shia LaBeouf in Disturbia reminds me of this like character, like Lloyd, like a Lloyd Dobler character, and it's such a well written and acted character, and Cusack does such a good job with him. And
I agree. He's very, very good. And like even his like you can tell like his delivery and handling of the dialogue is just like really well done, and like he adds something to like every scene that I don't think you would have gotten from another actor. It's just, yeah, he has like a certain presence in the movie that's like, it's not overpowering, but it's very impactful.
Agreed. I think, I don't know, it's like, it's his breakthrough movie for sure. And obviously the scene with him holding up the boombox is like iconic. But it's funny because like rewatching that scene, it's such a short scene.
Yeah, so
it's
that's
very quick.
Every one of these movies has had an iconic scene, and I think in almost every instance, that iconic scene is mishandled in like every like cultural reference that it's like used in, because like we talked about Nobody Puts Baby in the Corner is like the dumbest thing ever, but it's like so iconic. We talked about the birthday cake in 16 Candles, which is like the end of the movie,
Literally the end.
and then the scene with the boombox, and it's not Phil Collins, it's the other guy.
Peter Gabriel.
Playing In Your Eyes.
Great song.
That all, to me, again, like I've never seen this movie, but I obviously know of that scene.
Yeah.
My impression through like cultural references and stuff was that's how he wins back the girl But that's not at all what that scene is. It's just him standing in the rain with the boombox, and then she ignores him and he leaves. I was like, oh, like that's like, why is that so iconic then? Like it's a great scene, but like I always thought that was like the big romantic gesture that like wins over the girl, like, but like no, not at all.
Now, think about it from like the context, like now. What if you did that to a girl? Wouldn't they think it's kind of stalkerish?
I don't know. It'd be annoying.
Trying to sleep and just playing a loud ass music. Like, turn that shit down. Like, what the fuck?
Especially Peter Gabriel. Jesus. No.
You don't
I'm
like
just
Peter
kidding.
Gabriel?
I'm just kidding.
I love that song. That song's great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and this is another movie with a good soundtrack.
Great soundtrack.
It's hard to do a bad soundtrack in the 80s, I feel like. So, yeah. I do appreciate that he wears a Clash shirt in a lot of this movie, too. I was a big fan of that.
Well, speaking of creepy, I mean, what if it was like the wrong house and you see some dude in like a trench coat holding a boombox over his head? Like,
the trench coat is kind of creepy.
It is, but it's cool
that
too.
one,
I don't know. It's like his style. I don't know. He's kind of like a loner,
Well, yeah, it's kind of like he's got like kind of a grungy kind of style.
Yeah,
it's
like kickboxer. He loves playing the guitar, like rock music.
Well, it's like punk.
Yeah,
but he's also trying to pretend like he's an adult. So like the like left open like sloppy trench coat is like this like it's kind of punk, but also at the same time you can tell that he's like trying to pretend like he's an adult and like trying to impress Diane's dad and stuff, which is kind of funny. But
yeah, the scene where he like doesn't get interrogated but thinks he's being interrogated when he first meets the dad is like really awesome. And he's like, I'll have her home by 10 o'clock and I don't drink, I'm an athlete, I kickbox and all that stuff. I love that scene because he's just like it's just like it's awkward, but it's like he's like preemptively being like, cool, I'm gonna overcome all this. And it's just like it's kind of not needed, but it's hilarious, and it's just it really lends to his character.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of 10 o'clock, they're like 10 o'clock. It's like 10 in the morning is what they're saying.
Yeah, there's like several times in the movie they're like, "I'll be back before dawn," and like I was watching this with my wife, and she's like, "I don't know how I missed that before, but like we're not doing that with our kid." Like,
no, that was wild. Like,
yeah, that's wild to me that was maybe common at the time. I don't know, but like, yeah. And
they go to the party and they like, I don't think she like doesn't drink, but like he drinks, yet he's driving. I don't know. It's interesting. And they're like all underage and like it's this giant rager and there's no cops. I mean, that's probably, I know we talked about it being a real movie. That might be the only unrealistic one, but also who knows in the late 80s if like no one gave a shit,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's also like a graduation party.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, 80s were a wild time.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, like, that party scene is great, because there's a lot of, like, funny aspects to it. Like, that one dude with, like, the kind of mohawk who's, like, looking in the mirror, and he's like, oh, God. And he just gets hammered, and he's the only one that's, like, left at the party, and he's just, like, throwing up on the toilet. And then Jeremy Piven's cameo kind of character in it. He's, that drunk dude, and, like, he's awesome in that. And, there's a lot of Chicago actors in this movie, and, we've said it before, Jake and I are both, I'm originally from Chicago, I don't live in Chicago, but Jake still lives in Chicago, the suburbs at least, and there's a lot of cool Chicago actors in this movie. Cusack's born and raised in Evanston, and I think same as Piven, and I think John Mahoney's also from Chicago. Like there's a ton of cool Chicago actors, and that's, hey, Chicago,
Yeah. Which is also why I thought that this was a Hughes movie, because Hughes movies are always Chicago centric.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the party scene is fun. It's not nearly as wild as the party scene from 16 Candles.
No.
But it's still pretty much a rager.
Yeah.
They have the like chicken guy that gets like mauled or whatever, like, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those time capsule kind of things where like then none of that is like allowed at all in any capacity anymore. And like, people would be like horrified if like you let your child just like roam around until dawn, like with a random boy, like nowadays.
I know.
So
it's so wild. Yeah, and then, just they're like walking and he pushes the glass aside, which is like shows he's a gentleman. I like that. And then he drops her off and she like hugs him and he's like, "Oh, I'll call you, like, call me tomorrow." He's like, "Today's tomorrow." I love that. And then he's celebrating in the street, which is adorable and hilarious. Yeah. And it's just cool because you see their relationship grow, and it's just, I don't know, it's such a good movie. I like, the whole breakup scene is intense and sad, and like you feel for him, and like the fact that she actually she gives him that pen that her dad gives to her, and she's like, never in a million years would I give him a pen, and she gives him a pen, to write her when she's in England for her fellowship. But then I never realized this until, and this, I'm probably a fucking idiot for not realizing this, but like she gives the same pen to her dad at the end.
Yeah.
And that's like it's a baton toss. Literally, the pen is the baton of like, hey, like you told me to, break up with him in a sense, and I trusted you and you've kind of betrayed my trust. And now I'm giving you the pen so you can write me from fucking prison, which is horrible, but like, it's a cool role reversal.
Right. And like, I think it's, you talked about the back and forth between Lloyd and her dad and like which one she prioritizes. Yeah. And like getting closer to the end where, we find out about the financial crimes, that the dad is involved in. His behavior does become more manipulative, and like it's very subtle, but he does start to like pull her away from Lloyd in like very small ways. Or at least he's not as supportive as he used to be. And like the pen is a good example where, she's saying like, I don't know what I want to do. And he's like, well, just give him this pen. And like, he kind of like brushes Lloyd away, like almost like dismisses the thought. And then is like, here, just like have this little like consolation relationship with him, go to England and do all these things that like we worked for like our whole lives, which is also like a very manipulative kind of thing, is that like it's not just her dreams, it's his dreams for her, and like that kind of thing, which I thought was interesting. And again, like really helps to highlight the breakdown of their relationship, and like that ultimate like implosion when she finds out that he has been stealing from these people, and I think it makes it even worse that he says he was doing it for her, and she's like, I never asked for any of this, and like that's kind of the ultimate betrayal, I think, especially given how transparent she is with him throughout the entire movie and the entire relationship with Lloyd.
Yeah, and they're, her and her dad's relationship is all about honesty, and they're always telling each other the truth. Like, she even tells him, like, "Oh, I slept with Lloyd," which is a pretty crazy thing to tell your parents. Like, I just had sex with this dude. Obviously they're in a relationship, but like, it's interesting because the dad is also just being a dad, if you think about it. Like, he obviously wants what's best for his daughter, and he's trying to be realistic. Like, he's like, is Lloyd going to drop everything and go to fucking England with you? And which he does, and he is, which is cool. Yeah. And it's like their relationship is going to stand the test of time, it sounds like. And, that's where they're having that kind of fight in the kitchen, and he asks, like, do you love him? And she's like, yeah, I do love him, basically. And it's, it's like, oh, okay. But, he's being realistic in a sense, but he's also being selfish. And I think he's being selfish because he's guilty and he knows he's probably going to go to jail, which is crazy to think that, because watching the movie, you're like, the dad's innocent, and you basically believe him, which is crazy. And then he ends up being guilty, and you're like, holy crap, like, I didn't see that coming.
Well, and I think that's the biggest accolade I can give to the writing in this movie is that you are on the same page as Diane throughout the entire movie, and that, like, bombshell that he actually has been stealing is just as much as much of a surprise to you as it is to Diane. Which is just a very it's such a hard thing to do properly, I think, in a movie, especially when, like, there are breadcrumbs throughout the movie that, like, he is actually guilty of this. They're very subtle, but, like, the IRS agent that interviews Diane, is like, is there art around the house? Is there expensive furniture? Are things nice but not too nice? And, like, literally all these things describe exactly, like, their house and, like, their lifestyle. And he even says, like, are things valued right around $9,000? And that was the price of the jukebox that Lloyd asks about early on at, like, the dinner party. So, like, it's very, very good narrative building, while, like, not just keeping the audience in the dark, and, like, lying to the audience, or, like, just omitting everything, because, like, you can do that, but, like, it's not as impactful, I feel like, where like the transparency is there, and, like, the supposed honesty between Diane and her dad is there. So, like, there's never really any doubt in your mind as the audience, that he's innocent, until she finds the cash. Which, it's just, again, really, really well done, and it's built up so well.
Agreed. I think one scene that's, like, it's heartbreaking, and you feel for the dad, and again, a credit to the writing and emotional impact these characters have, is the scene where her dad, John Mahoney, is looking at buying luggage, and, he's a single dad, and the ladies, like, they kind of have, like, a spark, like a little bit of chemistry, and then he goes to give her a credit card, and it comes declined, and then he's kind of embarrassed, which is funny, and, like, she like, all the attraction level kind of goes down, which is kind of superficial, but also it's embarrassing. It's just like, and then she has to take the card, and he's like, well, no, just keep it. Like, that scene is, like, heartbreaking. And then you see the next scene is him in, like, the bathroom, in the bathtub, like, oh, fuck. Like, this is real.
Which is also, like, kind of leads you to believe that he's innocent. Because if he was, like, stealing all this money, he shouldn't have these like credit problems or whatever, but like, again, like, I think it's really well done. I think it's implied through the revelation at the end that he is actually committing crimes, that like he's probably, or his credit has probably been shut off by the IRS. Which
froze all his assets.
Yeah, which isn't clear until you find out that he's actually guilty. So again, you're kind of learning these things through the lens of this like honesty, that him and his daughter have had between each other, and it's just difficult to believe that he is guilty of anything.
Yeah, it's
So,
wild.
Yeah, just well done.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's very impactful. It's very emotional, and it's just, again, I've seen this movie probably at least 5 times, and I mean, I watched it. I'm trying to think when the first time I saw it. I probably saw it. I wonder if I saw it. I've like at least 5 years ago is when I first watched it. At least, maybe 10. And I've loved it ever since. It's a really good movie. I'm glad we watched it. It made a good amount of money. It made a good amount of money at the box office. It's iconic. It's a good romantic comedy. It's got all the tropes, but it's done so well. I think, I don't know. I'm glad we watched it. I'm glad we watched all these rom-coms, but I'm honestly ready to move on.
Yes.
Like I can't wait to move on.
Yeah. What was your favorite that we watched?
Probably When Harry Met Sally. That's like, I'm same boat as you. That's number 1. Then this is number 2, and then I didn't care for Dirty Dancing or 16 Candles, really.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But I'm glad you hadn't seen any of them, right?
No, I hadn't seen any of these.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like
it. It was
that.
interesting for me. Yeah, normally this is a genre that I avoid at all costs. So yeah, it was nice to actually watch, some that I thoroughly enjoyed. And then like at least see, the other 2 that are also, very culturally important. I can say that I've seen them. I don't have to ever again, hopefully. I'm just kidding. But, it's like, yeah, glad I watched all of these. But,
Me too.
Yeah, I am ready to get back into some more action and comedy and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're men. We want action.
yeah.
We want it.
It's the 80s. There's like...
It's an abundance of action.
There's an overflowing abundance of action. So, yeah, I'm excited. What March? We've got no theme for March. But we've got good stuff coming up.
Yeah,
I think some of our. Well, I think your favorite Bond movie will be coming up in a couple weeks. I'm pretty sure it's your favorite.
like of the 80s?
Yes.
License to Kill? Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's super dope. I love it. I don't know if it's. I feel like it's a tie between that and A View to a Kill for 80s Bond movies.
Oh, I forgot you. Yeah, View to a Kill you like a lot too.
I love that movie.
Yeah, View to a Kill
Max
is
Zorn.
yeah, Christopher Walken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Duran. That'll be on the list. Yeah, I love that Bond song.
So 80s too. Duran
Very.
Duran just in general, super
Yeah.
80s.
I'm excited for License to Kill, though. I'm excited for that. We've got
Yeah,
some good movies on the docket for sure.
I don't know if I've ever seen License to Kill, so that'll be interesting.
What?
Yeah,
No way.
I'm trying to remember which one it is.
T-Doll. Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, I have not watched that one.
Benicio,
For sure.
one of Benicio del Toro's first roles. But we'll get into it when we watch it
Yeah.
because I've got a lot to say in that movie. I freaking love that movie.
Yeah, and next week is Midnight Run, which I have also not seen.
I love that movie. I'm ready for movies I haven't seen though. Again, I want to get into that. More,
Actually, I haven't
but-
seen the next 3.
Ooh. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
we're in for a treat, people. Because I think I've seen all the ones for March that we want to do. But yeah, so we'll definitely be back with some more entertaining movies. Not that
Yeah.
these weren't, but like more fun movies to us.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys let us know next week. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, and if anybody has suggestions, DM us or send us leave a comment on the episode posts or whatever, and tell us what you want us to watch from the
Yeah.
80s.
We're all open to that. We don't have a set schedule, so we just kind of going by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. See you next week.